Hey there, friends. Interesting development today. The Supreme Court granted review in United States versus Rahimi. In February, a Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals panel ruled the prohibition on owning guns while being subject to a domestic violence restraining order is unconstitutional. The Department of Justice appealed that decision, and now the Supreme Court will take up that same question. First of all, what does a restraining order do? Let's get that out of the way first. Typically, this is whenever there's some kind of a breakup, more notably a divorce, where one party wants a restraining order against the other one for potential threats or made threats. The restraining order can make the opposing party stop contacting, calling, or sending any messages, attacking, striking, or battering a person, which that seems like that's already against the law, stalking them, threatening them, sexually assaulting them, harassing them, destroying personal property, or disturbing the peace of the protected people. Most of these are against the law. So we have a new order called a restraining order that we are going to award somebody to tell their person that's supposedly attacking them, hey, we really mean business this time. We understand those things you were doing were breaking the law, but we're letting you know now that we know that you were breaking the law and we want you to know that you were breaking the law, so they're super extra bad if you break them now. The problem is that in many cases, restraining orders are a little bit too easy to get, and I'm not trying to side with the abusive ex-boyfriends or anything like that, but let me throw some statistics at you real quick so you understand where I'm going with this. In roughly half of all cases involving a court-ordered restraining order, there is no allegation whatsoever of any physical violence. An estimated 70% of all restraining orders are thought to be trivial or false. Read that one again. 70% of restraining orders are thought to be trivial or false. More than 500,000 people are wrongfully arrested on unsubstantiated allegations of domestic violence every year. An additional 1.5 million temporary restraining orders are filed every year that are discovered to be false or trivial. If 70% are false or trivial, what about the other 30%? Well, I'm going to have to invoke the Second Amendment at this point. If everyone has the right to keep and bear arms, I don't see anywhere where it says everyone has a right to keep and bear arms unless their ex-girlfriend or ex-wife says otherwise. The numbers are overwhelming. I'm not disputing the fact that there are some abusive ex-boyfriends and ex-husbands out there. I actually know some people personally who have been down that road. So I can acknowledge firsthand that I know this problem exists. The thing is, you can't make a problem of 30% and push it on to the other 70% who are not the problem. You are trying to endanger 70% of the people that have these orders. That 70% number alone is proof that this system is abused. And another point I would like to make, you can still file a restraining order. It would still be illegal for your ex to do any of the things listed on a restraining order. It just means that you can't unconstitutionally disarm them. Again, I say this all the time in regards to gun laws. How many layers of laws do you have to pass before you think a person willing to break those laws is going to listen to you and go, wait a minute, that's the fifth law that says what I'm doing is wrong. Now I got to stop. As long as a person is intent on doing harm to somebody else, you can pass as many of these as you want, and they're going to break every single one of them. So by making it illegal for a person to have firearms or to purchase a firearm because there's a restraining order against them doesn't do anything. All it does, again, is make those 70% that are false allegations unsafe. And let's not forget this also, friends. In many cases, whenever there's this kind of contention, this kind of animosity between couples, it's usually involving children. Let's face it. That's a sad situation. It's a very sad fact that children being involved and one party or both manipulating the minds of those children is what's caused the biggest amount of problems. So that usually means that parties are sharing at some, I'm not saying equally, but sharing custody of those children. So you're okay putting your children falsely, because again, I got to bring up that 70% number of false or frivolous, trivial. You're willing to make your children less safe while they are with your ex-spouse just to prove a point and just to be vindictive. Let's go back to the criminal of a mind also. If a person is willing to violate a restraining order, they do not care about the weapon or how they acquired that weapon. So even if you allow to disarm that person, allow that to be a thing and not be unconstitutional, then we are still looking at the very fact that this person was willing to violate that restraining order, which is against the law, and perform these other things against you, which are also against the law. So does it really matter that you made them having a firearm against the law too? They're already willing to break all these other laws along the way. One of the things that we should be thinking about here is encouraging women to arm themselves. Encourage them to get the training they need to protect themselves and their families. That's the step we ought to be thinking about. Fight fire with fire. If you truly believe that that ex is some kind of a threat and you've already filed a restraining order, if you truly believe that you have an issue, arm yourself, train yourself, and guess what? Do us all a favor and take that person out whenever they come to do you harm. Friends, it doesn't matter what weapon your abusive ex intends to use. No matter what, when you dial 911, if you do not have your own protection, those cops are still and always going to be 15 to 20 minutes away. A bullet, on average, moves at about 1,000 feet per second. So you got a whole lot of seconds where you can wait on law enforcement to get there safely if you're armed and trained on how to use that firearm. The main thing that worries me about Supreme Court seeing this case and hearing this case is that the wackos on the far left are going to use this now as another push for red flag gun laws and for additional funding to be thrown at bribe money to these states to get them to implement their own red flag gun laws. Because now they're going to say that, oh, look, the unconstitutional Supreme Court has now decided that, now this is if it's ruled upon and struck down, but now the Supreme Court has decided that violent ex-boyfriends and ex-husbands can now have guns. So it's going to be open season on ex-wives and ex-girlfriends. So now they're going to make that hard push on funding through Congress to get more money tossed at these states to implement these types of unconstitutional red flag gun laws. So that's what I see being a byproduct of this. If this is in fact struck down, I do see there being a lot stronger push in that realm. Folks, we talk about it all the time. We are our own first responders. You are your protection. If you continually rely on everybody else to protect you and you continue to outsource the protection for your family and yourself, you are going to wind up 6 feet under if you're not willing to do something to protect yourself and your family on your own.
God save the Queen, man.
I'm sorry, I thought this was America.
He's so